I can tell it's a Monday morning. Everyone's a little bit quiet, including myself. Um, so I don't know how many of you were on last week, but we talked a little bit about habit tracking and structural tension. And as I kind of review just a little bit, I want you to be thinking, I don't know if I gave you homework or not. I can't remember. I think I did. I think I said put this to practice. But if you have put it to practice, I want you to be thinking about how you've used the habit tracker, how you've used structural tension, even if it's not in this context, even if it is you've been in this program for a while and you've put structural tension to use, and just how you've used it in your life. So give some examples. That really helps a lot of us even just think of the ideas. But for those of you who weren't here last week and haven't had a chance to watch last week's presentation, I wanted to say episode. That's hilarious. Last week's presentation. What we talked about was really structural tension and how that helps us to reach our goals. And with structural tension, it starts with our current reality. We think of ways to create what we desire. So we actually have to have not only our current reality, but also our goals and what we would like, so our desired result, and then kind of the middle micro habits of how we're going to attain that goal. So I think I've given you a little bit of time to think. Is there anyone who'd like to just share how structural tension and habit trackers have really just inspired them or changed their habits or just been influential in their lives? So either raise your hand or just come off mute and share. Okay, Savannah, go ahead.
Yeah. This is more, I did it a little bit I did it for a good while I was in weight loss phase, but I made those little logs. I don't know if that counts. Is that little logs, those are habit trackers? Yeah, those
Absolutely.
I made those specifically for my grandma because she could not remember the fats and how they worked, and she was having a really hard time using the guide that was in the guide. But I used those a lot, and it really helped me because I kept on losing track of my water and my fats really easily. I thought I was doing it, I was not, and then I started filling them out, and I was like, oh, that's why I'm not losing weight. It's because I'm not doing it right, and I'm issuing it with the water, and then I started tracking it, and I lost 83 pounds. So there you go.
There you go. Like for sure. Now, I know Savannah, she is an amazing graphic designer and she does these wonderful charts and just makes things a little bit more beautiful to the eye and also very practical. So thanks, Savannah, for doing that for us too. And then, yes, I just want to tap in on that. When we put the habit track, when we actually log the things, I think a lot of us are highly optimistic and we think, I'm doing all the things. But wait a minute, I'm not losing what I want to lose. And then we track it and then we see, oh my goodness, I wasn't drinking enough water. And so thanks for sharing, Savannah. Carrie.
I thing that you gave us. It's really, and I shared it with one of my clients who struggles, just to keep on track, and she really liked it. I put different things on here. I put motion, no tortilla chips, because those are my spirit animal. So I need to get away from those bad boys. I put read books, not just like the Lifebook, but I have a couple other books that I'm reading, and then pack 3 boxes because currently we're moving across the country in June. So pack 3 boxes and do Facebook only 3 times a day, which is hard for me. I'm like checking it every 3.5 minutes, it's too much. And then A to Z. So I put other things on my list besides just like food and water and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Carrie. And for you clients who don't know, A to Z is it's just one of our business building activities. Some of those things obviously are her personal things to get done. But oh my goodness, just having it written down and the micro habit, like and we're going to talk a little bit more about consistency, but consistency is key. Yeah. Really quick before Vicky answers, where do we get that fancy chart? I just dropped it in the Monday Lifebook Messenger group, so you can grab it there. And if you're not there, then ask your mentor to add you to the group. So Vicky, why don't you share?
Yes, and if Savannah could drop her sheets in, that might be helpful too. She could drop those colorful sheets in.
Awesome.
I was just thinking that the whole idea of mindset changes when you write it down. Just like we've been saying, you ish it and so forth, but when you write it down, you actually see it. There's something, there's just a spark. There's just something that causes that structural tension to be there. And they say it's kind of like a rubber band pulling you because you've got your goal up here, and then you've got where you are, your current reality. And then when you write those things down as you track them, that rubber band just kind of pulls you up to where you want to go. So I think it's key to track. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Vicky. Okay, well, I'm going to keep going because and those were wonderful shares. Thanks so much for sharing those things. We're going to keep moving in element 3, and we're going to head into, we talked a tiny bit about the habit loop, last week, but on page 82, Dr. A really dives into the habit loop. I'm not going to talk too much about the habit loop because it's very, very simple. It's the cue, routine, reward, cue, routine, reward. And the really the best example is set your alarm, eat your food, and then you reap the benefits of that. I know for me, I absolutely did not eat very well at all before I started this program. I might have gotten it up in the morning, and I always told myself I hate breakfast. It always made me feel not so well, but I wasn't eating the right things. So I would not eat till probably 1 in the afternoon, maybe 2. I just would go about my day. I'd feed my kids, I'd do all the things. And when I started really putting these alarms into my schedule, first of all, I kept thinking, oh my goodness, I have to eat again. That was the first thing. I was like, I'm eating again? Wait. And then I had to trust the process. And that's kind of what we all need to do is we trust the process. And then we realize, oh, this is trustworthy and it works. So again, on page 85, he says, remember that even with a system, consistency is key. Absolutely being consistent. We need to make sure that you can repeat the routine every single day, and then the new behavior becomes automated. After almost a year and a half on this program, my stomach starts to growl a little bit when it's time to eat. That kind of becomes my cue. So anyway, so that's the habit loop. And then I wanted to kind of draw your attention to page 86. So we're looking into the micro habits to install. Carrie gave us some great micro habits that she's installing. Savannah mentioned water. So those first, here's what I really have learned again from, I think I did mention this before, I'll drop those in the chat as well. The Atomic Habits by James Clear. Essentially what he says is make the habits easy to do, but only add maybe 1 at a time. Because I know for me, I am an overachiever. I just know that about myself. So come January 1st, I would always be like, add like 20 new habits that were going to make me, it was just miraculously going to change my life. And what I loved about Dr. A was he really said, and again, on page 86, he has some questions. He says, there are 3 questions you need to ask as you prepare to install a habit. Number 1 is appealing. Do I want to do it? Number 2, is it achievable? Can I actually do it? And that's really taking the slow process. Like I can't run a mile. I'm not a runner. I've never been a runner. I could walk a mile, but I can't run a mile. So one baby step at a time. And 3, is it easily activated? Is there a prompt that reminds me to do it? And I love the step-by-step process. So I would say, if you have the nutrition and the hydration down, add another one each week or each month. Add another something that you want to do. Also for me, James Clear also talks about, I don't know if it's habit stacking or he calls it something else, but I call it habit stacking because it makes sense to me. I will, because I love listening to books. And sometimes I'll listen to a nonfiction and sometimes I'll listen to a fiction. And I love listening to books. And I really dislike doing the laundry and the dishes. I just dislike it. So I will put it in my ear and I will do the laundry. Or I'll put it in my ear. I know that I want to, and sometimes it's even from my personal development. Like I want to listen to something for my personal development. So it's a have to. Like I need a half an hour to listen to this book. And so I will go and I will do the mindless job of doing dishes or the mindless job. Or if I know I need to get out for a walk, well, guess what? I get a half an hour to an hour of a book and I'm super excited. So that is one of the rewards for me, the habit stacking. In order for it to be achievable, we have to be able to do it every day. That means that even on the days when your motivation and willpower are low, you can still do it. And on the days when you're overwhelmed, you can still do it. Okay, so I will just share honestly, a little fact from this last week. So we had a memorial service for my mother-in-law. She lost her battle with cancer, and it was a hard day. It was a week ago Saturday. And I knew it was going to be an emotional day. I knew I would be seeing a lot of people. We would be out having food at this gathering. And I tell you what, afterwards, I was so thankful that I had made all of these things a habit, because there was a whole treasure trove of sweets. I mean, it was kind of like this potluck thing. And man, now I could have made the choice and had it, and it would have been fine. I probably would have even just had a little tiny piece, but I was able to stay away from that, really. And it's not my willpower, because I have very low willpower, low willpower. But because it has been a habit, I was able to stay away from those. So then I want to kind of move into, there's page 88. Dr. A really does talk about how when the micro habit, the small choice, those secondary choices meet up, and then with the motivation, when the motivation is high for more repetitions, and then that meets up with consistency, then there's enough time to install. And he puts a little example here: chewing each bite 5 times, plus it takes more time to chew, the consistency, and then there's enough time. How I kind of understood this for me is that my micro habit of setting alarms and making sure they're set for the time, because today is different than tomorrow. Tomorrow might be a little different schedule, so I need to make sure those alarms are set correctly. And then I also need more time when I am highly motivated to prepare my meals. So when I'm highly motivated, that's when I stock my freezer with cauliflower rice. Just honesty. Right there. If I have a little mini bag of cauliflower rice, I know that my lean is taken care of. I also might be highly motivated to cook up some ground beef or ground turkey or chicken or whatever I'm using for my protein, and have that frozen in the freezer. So when I am like at my wit's end, or I am really busy, or I'm starving and I'm getting to a hangry point, I can grab those, I can have my lean and green, and I can feel satisfied and I've done my job for the day. But I do have to find a place where I'm highly motivated. And maybe you're the same. I have gotten to those places where I've gotten stuck and I've either caved. I mean, it's happened. Or I have, just kind of made do. I will say this, when I just make do, I plateau every time. When I don't fully eat my full lean and green, because sometimes I'll say, oh, well, let me see. I'm just gonna estimate. When I estimate, I plateau. I don't eat enough. So a little tip there. Okay. Step 4, and I'm kind of running through these a little bit, but I do want to give you guys a little bit of time even just to process and share if you. Step 4, I wrote a little note in my margin that I get to dream again. When we were little, I don't know if you even remember dreaming when you were little, but I dreamt when I was little. I would play pretend, and I would, play with I had an older brother that we would play make believe and pretend. And I even dreamt of what I was going to be when I grew up, all the things. And then the world, then life happened. And then I heard the phrases that really kind of squashed my dreaming. And I can't even think of the phrases that I remember hearing. I was going to say, if nothing's for free, there's just a lot of negativity that I heard that I just stopped dreaming. It's like, oh, well, I can't do that, or I can't do that. And so when we go into step 4, he talks about looking at our present self and our future self. And so many times my husband says this to me, because he's a coach, and he's a wonderful athlete, and he coaches athletes, and he talks so much about delayed gratification, working now for the future, working now on these little micro habits for that future self. And so as we dream about that future self, really, what does that future self look like? What do we see as our future self? And I will tell you, I kind of, I underestimate my future self. I'm like, well, we'll see. Even as my sister shared this program with me, I was like, we'll see. I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. And then I saw it, and it was incredible. So he talks about present self and future self. On page 95, he just shares a little bit. He says, you will always want to connect the daily action to immediate positive feedback. So cue, routine, reward, to tie in your present self, as well as the long-term compounding effect of installation. There's the other book that I would highly recommend, Compound Effect. The little actions today done consistently compound. And that consistency is just so key. I don't know why I didn't understand this growing up, but man, I'm so glad I understand it now. He just kind of shares a little bit about that. And then he adds to the cue, routine, reward, little diagram on page 96. He talks about cue, routine, instant reward equals long-term investment. It's the long-term investment. So, he says, okay, your cue is the alarm, your routine is eat the fueling, instant reward, you feel full, and you do. And the long-term investment is healthy weight. I have shared this many, many times. And then I'm going to ask for any feedback or any wins that you guys have had in utilizing these things, because I know a lot of this is very much review for you. It's just a reminder. And if it's not review, dive into element 3. It is amazing. But there is, you know, the story of the frog that is in boiling water and boils to death because they don't, the temperature is just kind of turned up slowly and gradually, and then they boil to death. Well, in my lifetime, this is what I was feeling. If you haven't heard my story, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes about 3 years ago. I've always struggled with high blood pressure. It is hereditary, but I know a lot of it is weight driven. And I had gestational diabetes with my last child. High blood pressure, was on the medications. And after losing this weight, I was able to reverse my type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure. And I've stayed consistent with that because of the weight loss. Now, when I went to the doctor and the nurse called me to tell me that I had type 2 diabetes, I remember where I was. I was shopping in Walmart because I was on my way home from the doctor. And they said, and it felt like a punch in the gut. But thankfully, it was a wake-up call. Now, I can't say that I had the wake-up call right there. I was still boiling to death. I had confusion. I had anger. I had fear. And so lived with that for I would say about 6 months to a year before my sister, amazingly, you know, the Lord brought this wonderful program into her life. And the rehab that I was able to receive through Optavia, the sugar rehab, number one, but also the weight loss, I was able to jump out of the water. So that's where I know that long-term investment, my healthy weight, I will never see type 2 diabetes again. I'm not type 2 diabetic. I can say it. I can, woo! So tell me a little story about you, or give me some feedback on anything that maybe is just stirring within your heart today. Kathy, go ahead.
I can't help but brag on my coach because she set me up for success day one and helped me do the habit tracking and, just totally set me up and kind of held my hand. And she is still there for me. Of course, that's my daughter. But I do have a problem with dreaming. So I need to work on that. And I will. I'm dreaming as we go. I've lost 50 pounds now. I have another 30 to 35 to lose. But I know that I will need to be on some kind of a structural program. I recognize the structural tension in my life already because of my coach and the alarms that I keep on my phone and the Fitbit that I wear, and recording exactly what I eat and when I eat, because I forget a lot. And but all those things are necessary because I have been totally lax and yo-yo dieter, obviously because I don't stay on a program. But I know that I need to work on dreaming. I know that I need to work on working out, but I'm doing it. And my husband is supportive and my daughter is very supportive. And I just love this program. And thank you so much for doing this element study. Gets more into depth and makes me see that, hey, she already got me set up for this. So anyway, 50 pounds down and I'm happy.
That's so wonderful. And I know she's so proud of you, and we all are. It's so fun to watch, to just be a fly on the wall.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing, Kathy. Carrie, why don't you share?
I think that this chapter is just all about being completely aware of every choice we make. It's that mindfulness where I was totally sleepwalking before plan. I was having Cheez-Its and Diet Coke for lunch. That's sleepwalking. And it's like, take every thought captive, take every choice captive. Like, give that to Jesus too. And just being accountable to the Lord for every single thing we're doing and everything we put in our mouth.
That's right. I just thought the word clarity, like clarity, it's brought so much clarity, and we're not in that sleepwalking mode, brain fog. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Carrie. Mary.
Speaking of personal development, I was listening to a book that you're very familiar with, Harmony, called Take the Stairs. I listened to the whole book the last couple of days, and I was listening to it again today. But it's about success, and it's about self-discipline. And it's something that I've really, really struggled with my entire life in different areas. But one of the quotes that he said I was listening to today goes right along with this. He said, "We are falling asleep to things that are directly in our control." And I was like, wow, it's so true. We don't, and I think of the frog just kind of, in the water, just not even knowing or having an idea. But this structural tension helps us to stay awake, to always stay awake, and to keep our eyes open, and not to fall asleep to those things that are in our control. They're directly in our control. So focusing on those things, that's what's going to lead to success in any area of our life. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. It makes me think of Nemo. It's my favorite movie where he says, stay awake, stay awake. We need each other to help, to remind you, like, we need a coach. Like Kathy was saying, we need a coach to help us stay awake. Savannah, why don't you share?
Yeah, I really like what Carrie said about not just, it was, I can't remember her exact wording, but basically part of me was when I reached my highest weight, I called it my survival weight. It was from medicine mostly, and medicine my medicine made me crave carbs, and I just gave into it. And it was necessary because, like, the medicine was necessary for me because it was antidepressants and a lot of bipolar medicine that I needed. Like, at that moment, it was a necessity. Longer without it. So when I started gaining the weight, I was like, oh, this is fine. This is a side effect, and I'll live with it. And then I just got obsessed with just giving up. It was almost like an obsession. Like, I refused to deal with this. I didn't want to deal with it any longer. And so I just ate whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I tracked nothing. And I thought, I wonder why I've gained 100 pounds. I wonder what happened. And then I looked at myself, and I finally had enough of giving up, and I decided to quit giving up. And I called Miss Melody, and I was like, how do I stop this? How do I get control back? And I did this program, and I was just like, oh, it reminded me to not quit, and that made me dream, because I was all of a sudden, I was like, hey, what if I had a six pack again? What if I went from not being able to see my feet over my stomach like I was a pregnant person to being able to run a mile, to being able to play sports, and all of a sudden I'm back to when I was in high school, and I'm like, oh, I can actually do stuff now, and I want to do things instead of just almost like self-sabotaging to the point I was like, hey, I don't care anymore. Now I care too much to give up. I'm not going to quit on myself,
That's awesome. Taking radical responsibility. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Savannah. Vicki, why don't you land our plane for us?
I'll land the plane. I know we're at the 12:30 mark or whatever, but I just wanted to leave you with all with this verse, 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. We were created to thrive and not just survive. And if we do that, if not, we think about what we're eating, we're drinking, whatever we're doing, if we're doing that for the glory of the Lord, then we will thrive and not just survive.
Mm, love that. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for being with us today, you all. I hope this has set you up for a wonderful day, a wonderful Monday, good start to your week. And we'll see you all next week. Same place, same time. Okay, bye.